The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the TopSolid online webinar for the What's New features for TopSolid 2021. We'll get started here in just a minute. There's some people still checking in. The goal of today's first webinar is to introduce you to some of the new features of the TopSolid product line from the design side of the product. For those of you that will be attending the other webinars later on throughout the week, we have a total of 17 scheduled for the week. Today there will be 3 webinars. This is the first of them. Tuesday through Thursday there are 4 webinars each day, and Friday I think there's 2 more. So, alrighty. So let me go and share my screen, and let's get started. Okay, so my name is Bill Gentz. I am the Sales and Technical Director for TopSolid USA. As I said, today's webinar, or this first webinar, is going to focus on the design side of the solution. And this in no means is showing every new key element within the 2021 product offering. It's just a couple of the really important improvements we think you should know about. Just to go over the agenda for this webinar, we're going to spend about 20-25 minutes talking about a few new products that are available. One of them being TopSolid Web Explorer, which allows you to connect to your PDM server from any device from anywhere through the web. The next one is called TopSolid PDM Multisite. This is an exciting new improvement that allows companies that have multiple locations to share the same PDM database, and the software will automatically synchronize everything in the background for you. And we'll talk about that in depth here shortly. That presentation will last about 20-25 minutes. From there, we're going to look at a few of the new TopSolid design improvements. Again, that's going to last 20-25 minutes. And then finally, we're going to go into TopSolid tooling and talk about some of the new improvements for split and mold and so forth. So, first new product is TopSolid PDM Web Explorer. So what is TopSolid PDM Web Explorer? It's the viewer that maybe some of you have used with the TopSolid projects, but it is available through a website. So it does require you to have the ability to host a specific type of website. We can talk about that shortly. There's no setup required on the client side because you're literally connecting through a web browser. So everything is dynamic. Works with Windows, works with iOS, works with Android, works with everything. It is always connected to your PDM server. You can always visualize every document up to date. It is simple and secure access. It allows any user with the appropriate user access to connect. If we take a look at some of the architecture behind here, you still have your TopSolid PDM server. Okay, so this is all still based on the same technology. You're still using SQL as the main database server. You still have your vault. Nothing changes there. Again, the structure for those of you, again, using the full PDM server and maybe using Explorer licenses, it's very, very similar. The only difference is the Web Explorer passes through the web. Okay, it still requires you to log in with your credentials, so it's very, very secure. What does it offer? It allows you to browse completely all the projects, any of the libraries. You have the full ability to visualize 3D TopSolid documents. So you can open them, you can rotate, pan, zoom, you can consult the document's properties, you can search the entire PDM database for whatever type of document you're looking for, and of course you can analyze stuff. So you can measure, you can cut, you can create little explosions of things. It does offer secure access. You will have a username and a password. It is compatible with Active Directory. Active Directory is another improvement for this year for TopSolid PDM, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit also. Of course, you have to set the right user roles and rights. linked to your TopSolid PDM security. So everything, like I said, is identical to what you're already used to. You can just access it on the web. It can be interesting for your sales team to go out and be able to pull up projects to show new clients or existing clients. You could create portals for your customers to log in and view data you're working on their behalf. Really, there's no limits to what you can do with this Web Explorer. So if we take a look quickly at what it looks like. So when you log into the Web Explorer, this is the home page. It's similar in what you see inside of TopSolid's homepage. You have your recent projects, you have recent documents, you have your user profile. Okay, any of these are dynamic. You click on any of those objects and it's going to load that specific object. You have a built-in search, again, similar to the search you're used to inside of TopSolid already. You can search by type, by project, by property, and so on. From there, you have your project tree. Your project tree and the goal of everything inside the Web Explorer is to have a very, very similar user interface so that if you're a TopSolid user, you come in here, this should feel natural to you. If you're not a TopSolid user, it is a very Windows style interface, so it should still feel very natural to you. You still have your property tab, you have your viewer tab, you can display or not the revision information, again, similar to what you're used to inside of the full TopSolid product. From there, you have the viewer itself. Once you're in the viewer, you can show and hide any element you want. You have your entities tree, so you can show or hide objects through the entities tree. You have the graphical cut as well, so you can make dynamic cross sections, you can make dynamic exploded views. You have your contextual menu, the right-click menu, that gives you the ability to hide open documents, show only, so you can really drill into your assemblies like you would naturally inside of TopSolid anyway. If we look at the viewer itself, once you're in a part or an assembly or whatever, here we have some of the measurement tools that are available. So you can measure distance between points, faces, obviously measure diameters and radiuses, measure angles, measure lengths. Okay, so again, whether you're using this on a PC, a tablet, on your cell phone, you can get the information you need simply. Okay, so let's have a quick look at it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play here. So here, logging in to our Web Explorer. So it's validating credentials. Here you're going to see the recent documents. We can go ahead and just click on the one we want to open up, and off we go, opening that specific project. On the left here, you see the project tree. You can see I just clicked on the assembly unit document. You can see how fast it loads. It loads reasonably quick, actually. I've actually opened pretty huge assemblies from our server in France on this, and it opens in a few seconds, so it's pretty cool. Here we're in the project tree, just exploring different elements. Now we're looking at this one. Now if we look at this part, here's that contextual menu. We can use show only there to show just that assembly. That's kind of awesome. You can use that contextual menu again to open just that document specifically. Now we have that part open. It's loading up all the information for that. And then off we go. Let's go look at some measurements. So we can take any type of measurement you want. Maybe we want a distance between faces. So we select a face, select another face. There's your measurement. If we take a look at the diameter, there's the diameter. But you can see it's pretty straightforward, very simple to use. And again, the goal is just to make it so that you have access to all of the PDM information without needing a full license of TopSolid. This is a licensed product, so you do have to buy the PDM Web Explorer license. There's the Web Explorer licenses and there's web client licenses, I believe. Here's another look at another assembly. It is, I'm looking at a question here, does it require a license to view as PDM Explorer does? Yes, I think I just answered that. It is a different license from the PDM Explorer license, so if you have PDM Explorer licenses and you switch to this, yeah, you'd probably depreciate that license, or maybe we swap them out, I don't know. We'll have to look at that. Here you're seeing a dynamic cross-section cut. For the client licenses, I don't believe there's a license installed. I think it has to do with credentials. So here's your dynamic exploded view. But hopefully you're seeing it's a pretty well thought out new product. We're going to open up a bill of materials right now for this RC engine, so that, again, the goal is you can view any of the data that you have inside your PDM. All right, let's fast forward this just a little bit. So here, let me back up. Here, if you double click on the line item like you would inside a TopSolid, it loads that part fully up, or that assembly fully up, so that you can go in and you can turn on and off things, you can analyze further. It's just the same type of navigational structure you're used to inside a TopSolid. Again, the only difference is it's just live via a website. Okay, so I think you guys get the point. It's a pretty powerful new tool. All right, so the next new product that we're going to speak about is TopSolid PDM Multisite. And before I get into this, I didn't say this at the beginning, but by all means, there's an area where you guys can type in questions if you have them. My team is here, they're monitoring. I'm trying to monitor as I'm presenting. I will do our best to answer them. At the end of the presentation, I will open it up to additional questions and do my best to answer anything that you guys may have to ask. So back to another new product, TopSolid PDM Multisite. This is a really cool new improvement. The whole idea here is to make it easier for companies having several sites, whether in the same country or around the globe, to be able to work within the same PDM environment. Okay, it allows you to collaborate anywhere with efficiency. All users access and share the common data. Actions on one site are automatically reflected to all other sites. You can still control access to specific projects through the normal TopSolid PDM security. So if site A shouldn't have access to some of the projects from site B, based on user credentials, the only thing they'll see is the name of the project, for example, but maybe they won't be able to open the project, or maybe they only have view-only options. Again, it just depends on how you choose to roll out the security at your site. Now, if we take a look at how this functions a little bit, TopSolid PDM Server Multisite is an option of the PDM Server family. So it is installed on the primary sites and on the secondary sites. You are going to be required to have a license of TopSolid PDM Server, and then you'll have additional license requirements for Multisite. The primary site, the company site hosting the primary server. This site contains all company data and manages all backups. The secondary sites, all other company sites are secondary sites. They host a secondary PDM server. This server replicates a read-only database. So this means that the SQL data that exists on the primary site is quietly replicated to all of the secondary sites. Okay, and we say it's a read-only database because it's the database is always driven by the primary. Okay, it will automatically get files from the primary if required. What does that mean? So, PDM data can get very large, very fast. The idea isn't that we're dynamically mirroring 100% of the data always, and I should say the vault data. The SQL data is 100% mirrored always. The vault data is only grabbed as needed. So let's say again, you have 4 sites and for the first time, you're trying to grab a part that was done by site 1 and you're at site 4. That part then will become dynamically synchronized. So the vault data for that part and all of its references will be dynamically synchronized in the background to your site the first time you grab it. So the first time you grab it, there might be, it takes whatever it takes to transfer copies of the data to your secondary site. But after that, then you're working in real time like you would on a normal PDM environment. We take a look at some of the architecture. The high frequency objects here is database, right? So as you can see here, the database on the, or I should say the object on the left is your primary site. The object on the right would be a representation of a secondary site. You still have your PDM server licenses. You still have your secondary server licenses. On the primary site, you do need to have a full SQL server, at least standard version. On the secondary sites, you can use an Express server license if you like. The SQL Server Express is a free version of SQL. It supports up to 10 gigabyte databases, so should be okay for your typical rollout. If you need large databases, and again, we're talking SQL data here, then of course you would upgrade the secondary sites to at least standard versions of SQL as well. The file server side, this is your low frequency objects. This is the actual vault data. Again, all of the vault data is always on the primary site. What is being used by the secondary sites is quietly copied over, okay? And again, the secondary PDM server manages all this for you. As far as the VPN tunnel, you are required to have a secure VPN tunnel, okay? You have to set this up, have your IT people set this up. We recommend that the latency on this VPN tunnel is between 10 and 250 milliseconds. Anything slower than that will affect usability of the application. So you want to make sure you have a good, clean VPN tunnel. We recommend a 10 megabit connection per user. Again, it just depends on the size projects and files you guys are working on over the reality of what this is. This is just loose recommendations for right now. Okay, prerequisites on the primary site. The primary site would require, like I said, a full SQL Server Standard Edition. You would need a TopSolid PDM Server license. That's module 1120. You would need then the primary server license. This is a new module. The secondary sites, you would have a SQL Server Express or Standard Edition. Again, depends on database size. Then you would have a TopSolid PDM server license, and then you would have a secondary server license, and that's module 1122, again, a new module. So each site, just to summarize, requires a PDM server license. And then depending on what the site is, if it's your primary server site, that site gets the primary server license, and then each secondary site would get a secondary server license. And again, as I said in the previous slide, you need a VPN between sites. So you need to have a good, clean network set up. And then the latency, again, between sites on that VPN needs to be between 10 and 250 milliseconds. Okay, another improvement to TopSolid PDM for 2021 is the incorporation of Active Directory. So some of our customers out there that have lots and lots of users, their network people have been asking for us to integrate Active Directory for some time, so we have done it. You can now do all of your authentication through Active Directory. Okay, so Active Directory, if you're not familiar with it, this is a product by Microsoft that controls your login credentials on domain networks. So if you're on a domain network at work, you've been using Active Directory for years, even if you're not aware of it. So now we can tie your TopSolid credentials into the Active Directory credentials so that when you log into Windows in the morning, that's also logging you into your PDM, so then you just launch TopSolid and off you go, okay? It also makes it way simpler to deploy because you're not having to deal with a secondary set of credentials. Again, for larger organizations, this will simplify life. This is just a new improvement to PDM. It's not another module or anything like that, just so you're aware. Okay, so let's take some look into some of the highlights for TopSolid design for 7.15. So first, 715, there's well over 100 new features. We have put a lot of work into quite a few specific applications with regarding to, of course, CAM, a new product, TopSolid Steel. I didn't talk about TopSolid Steel in this presentation. We'll probably plan a webinar for that in the near future, but it's a brand new product for the steelworking industries for like structural steels. Okay. There's improvements to tooling obviously as well. So let's have a look. First, we did some graphical optimizations. So what does that mean? Let's look at this this assembly here. So there's 19,000 parts in this assembly, 15 million triangles roughly between all the rendered faces. Frame per second in 7.14 was about 8 images a second. In 7.15, it has doubled. What does that mean? It means that the graphics will be smoother on these larger assemblies. Okay, so your rotation will be smoother, reactivity will be smoother, in general, just faster. Excuse me. The advantages, they're pretty straightforward. Advanced user experience, or enhanced user experience, excuse me. Again, if the data is moving more smoothly, as a user, you're happier, okay? Next, point clouds. So point clouds can be a very, very useful tool. So we have a new type of construction entity with regards to point clouds. The image on the right is an imported point cloud, and we use that point cloud that was done by a handheld laser to measure a door opening of a building so that we could build a custom fit door for it. Okay. Your data comes from 3D scanners. It just makes life simpler. Let's see if we have a look at how this works. So let's go ahead and play. So we're going to go into here and we're going to read point cloud data. We're going to browse to a specific file, just an XYZ extension, a tab delimited file, and lo and behold, there's the data. So this read in, and let me back up here. And this video's in real time, by the way. Let me pause it. This read in 820,000 points. So that's kind of cool. Nice and fast. Now, from there, what can you do with it? So first of all, we've updated the rendering engine to allow you to render points. Notice that I'm using a graphical cross section here. You can even clip it so that you can work through it. You can look at it from the side, you can analyze, you can measure between points to get rough ideas of how big something is. So now if we go look at this case, so in this case, we designed a door to fit this, looks like an old building, for example. So we're able to use the real data from that 3D scan to build that door. Okay, let's keep going. Next, extruded bars on curves. So extruded bars, what are they? So if we look at the image on the bottom right here, these are your structural steels, like hollow square tubes or round tubes or whatever. In versions in the past, we only supported linear features. In 7.15, you can now extrude these bars or work with extruded elements on curves. This allows you, for example, to really create some awesome automation in creating assembly items or objects like this to make the design significantly faster. Okay, let's have a look. So first things first, let's go to our extruded bar command. We're going to choose our profile. I'm just choosing an edge of another solid. And there you can see it is creating that extruded bar there. You have the same controls you're used to. You can just click on them to change them. Of course, you can change the code, choose whatever object you want to deploy there, and off you go. So now we have a few bars in there. If you go look at your bill of material, this is important as well. Of course, it's going to show up in the bill of material, and we're even giving you the length of those bars. So it is the physical length as if you unrolled that bar. Okay. All right, so we've also done some improvements to TopSolid work documents. We have some new automatic execution, some new treatments that you can do in them for creating folders and drafting bundles and so forth. It really allows to differentiate TopSolid compared to many of the other softwares on the market because we're taking some of the monotony out of your work, okay? It really saves time when you're sending a design to production. It's useful for many, many, many of the targets out there. The steel industries, the mold and die industries, whether when you're designing electrodes, even in machining. Let's have a look. So here we're going to create some automatic documents. Okay, so here we have this assembly for this little plane. We're going to run this work document, and here you're seeing some automation running. And if you look down here, it's building a lot of information. Okay, it's building drafting, it's building bill of materials, it's doing a lot. Okay, and again, the video is not sped up. This is real time. This is just doing all of the heavy lifting for you. So now what did it do? It built these documents. It built that document. It built everything. Okay, and what's the point of this? The point of this is quite simply to allow you to speed up your time from design to the actual manufacturing process. Okay, so these shop documents have been created. They're done. This is awesome. You can, like I said, you can use a TopSolid work document to automate a ton inside of TopSolid. Okay. I see a question that just popped up from the previous slide with regards to the length of the length given of the extruded bar. I believe it is the natural length. It's the neutral fiber. It's the center line of the bar. Okay. All right. So next, this improvement's really, really awesome. We're considering this a CAD for CAM improvement, but I could see using this many different places. It is a piece of automation that allows to simplify the creation of a single simplified surface in an area where you have a bunch of either really, really bad quality surfaces, or you just have a bunch of faces you want to simplify into a single face. In machining, this can be extremely useful, where we can use this to simplify the surfaces to get a cleaner, smoother surface. Okay, let's have a look. So here we can see we have a few faces down here, right? So we're going to start by going to new command in the 3D Sketcher called multiple intersections. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select the faces we want to use, and then we're going to choose a guide profile. And here you can see it's creating a bunch of sections along those faces. You can choose how many points, how you want to distribute the points, whether you want to extend curves or not, and how you want those extensions to happen. Sometimes you want the surface to be a little bit longer. Sometimes you don't. Again, it just depends on what you want to do. Okay, so you can tell it to ignore some sections. Cool. So now we have all of those sections made. What's the next step? So the next step is going to a new surfacing command called fitting. And you can see that it creates a perfect single surface that is fit to all of those sections that are created. And then if we go look at the isoperimetric curves, and again, this is just to show you how smooth and perfect this surface is. And for my CAM users that are watching right now, imagine what that does to the tool path when you go and machine that face. Okay, so again, a great new improvement, simplifying surfacing throughout. Next improvement, and this one's kind of huge in my opinion. So again, it's in this concept of CAD for CAM, and it has to do with passing product manufacturing information, or PMIs. Okay, so the first case here is a part designed with TopSolid. What you're seeing here is the history tree. So these are all the TopSolid drillings because, we designed this plate. So of course we have the natural drillings. Because we designed this plate, we can pass the manufacturing features to CAM. Okay, manufacturing features are a faster way to do drillings because the analysis is done in the CAD side already. And so CAM already knows what it is. But that's simple because, again, the design is done inside of TopSolid. What happens when you import a part? So typically when you import a part, you don't have any product manufacturing information. You just have a dumb model. So then you have to use a cylinder analysis command to try to find these drillings, and you have to look at your part print in order to analyze, okay, well, this is actually a reamed hole, so I got to make sure that I tell TopSolid that that's a reamed hole, or it's a tapped hole, or it's a this hole or a that hole, okay? What would be cooler is if you could import product manufacturing information from other solutions and still get all of the appropriate drillings, which then automatically feed the manufacturing features, which then allows machining to be simplified. What do I mean? So if we import a file from, let's say, CATIA, okay? CATIA has the ability, and many softwares today have the ability, to include manufacturing information, okay? Such as tolerancing, fits, finishes, and so on, okay? Because they can export the models that way, or they're stored in their models that way, I should say, TopSolid can read that PMI information and then convert it. When we convert it into a TopSolid drilling plus a manufacturing feature automatically. So during the import, this is going to happen. Okay, let's have a look. Oops, sorry. So here we're importing a CATIA file with the PMI. Here you can see the result. Let me pause this for a second. Oops. Sorry, I'm blowing the wrong way here. It's Monday. Not everything can be perfect on a Monday. All right, here we go. So on the import, let this rotate, and I'm going to pause it for a second. So when we pause it, what do we see? This is an imported model, and you see manufacturing features. That's these little arrows here, okay, and these little wireframes. So they're just simplified representations of what these drillings actually are as read in from this CATIA file. If you look, and I can't zoom since it's a video, but it's converted that to a tapped hole because that's what the PMI was for this, okay? So let's just keep going here. If we zoom up, we can go to our annotation stage. There are all of your tolerances and fit and finishes and what have you. And because now that we know all of this, TopSolid is able to convert this into a specific drilling with a specific tolerance. Because we can do that, this can then be passed along as a manufacturing feature. And then because of that, TopSolid CAM knows what's what and can apply the correct manufacturing process to those features. So the takeaway from this is whether you're designing in TopSolid, which of course you all should be, but your customers probably aren't. So if you're not designing in TopSolid, you can import their data with their manufacturing information. Again, it requires your customer to actually put this information in their files. But if they do that, which they should, then you can read that into TopSolid and it should simplify your manufacturing process. Okay, so let's look at what's new in drafting. So there's a couple of interesting improvements. Again, There's a lot of improvements, but we're just trying to show a few of the key elements today. Okay. In 2D drafting, we're going to take a look at automatic interrupted views and magnetic lines. Let's just get into it. So if we go here and watch this, here we have a nice little assembly. And when I say little, obviously it's got some length behind it. And there's a lot of it that can be hidden via interrupted views. So if you notice, I just created an interrupted view and the software did it automatically for us. Awesome. So it determined where to split it, it determined how to do it, and it did it quickly. Of course, you can control it, you can adjust it, you can do with whatever you want. Next, we're talking about magnetic lines. And magnetic lines is just a way to simplify the control and organization of your balloons. So here we can say create magnetic line. Okay. You have equidistant spacing or free spacing. Okay. But now what's neat is you see there's this magnetic line that is controlling everything. You just hover on it to get to it, and then you can adjust. You can edit all magnetic lines at once. And you can see it's just a way to cleanly organize all of the balloons within your assembly document. Perfect. Next, we made a little improvement to TopSolid image. In fact, we've added emissive environments. For those of you not familiar with TopSolid image, it is our rendering engine. So if you wanted to do photorealistic rendering, off you go. The whole idea behind them is to give you natural and realistic lighting. Okay, so if we look at the two images here, these are renderings based on environments. Okay, so we're saying when the sun was setting in a given day, this is the light that is coming through that environment or through the windows into the environment. Now the sun is high in the sky, and you can see how the light is bouncing differently. So these are renderings, again, done with TopSolid image. If you need to be able to do photorealistic rendering and you don't have TopSolid image, please reach out to us and we'll hook you up. Okay, so talking about the release is available. Some of you should have already received it and have downloaded, maybe you've installed it and have started to play with it. Just to recap on the release itself, we no longer deliver DVDs. We haven't for a few years, but just to have a quick note about that, it is a completely downloadable version. Last year, we switched to hosting that on a CDN, which is a content delivery network. In fact, what that means is the software, the service packs, everything are available on the CDN network, which is different servers around the globe that are hooked up to really, really big pipes for pushing big data. Okay, so it should allow you to download as fast as your service provider allows you. Okay, like I said, it's available today. Okay, let's take a quick look at TopSolid tooling. Okay, so in TopSolid tooling, we're going to take a quick look at some of the key new improvements inside of TopSolid mold and progressive die. Let's start with TopSolid mold and cooling circuits. We made an interesting new improvement on existing 3D sketches. It allows you to adapt to your 3D sketch, more dynamically. It's just, you know what, let's just go to the video. I think the video is where it's all at. So here we have a repetition of sketch elements. Okay, so you can see some lines with some points on them. I'm going to reduce it back to 5. I'm going to go to my waterline command. I'm going to select my existing sketch. Okay, automatically detect the elements that the sketch intersects with for what we're applying to, and then we're going to apply the drillings. Okay, so here you can see the cross holes as well as the baffle holes that have been put in. You can see they're auto adapting. Now let's change to 8 of them. Let's change back to 5. You'll notice that it is auto adapting every drilling appropriately to that 3D design. And I apologize that updating was really fast, so let me back this up just a little bit. So Here's 5 instances, and you can see the baffle lines are stopping appropriately, distances to the actual molding surfaces, right? And then if we change that to 8, again, you can see the adaptation automatically. So less work for you as the designer. You just have to think where you want to put these and the spacing, and then let TopSolid do all the heavy lifting for you. That's why we buy CAD/CAM software to begin with, right? So next, let's look at a new design feature called angle clearance. It's available now as standard. And what I mean by that, it's a standard feature in TopSolid design. We're showing this as an improvement in tooling because it's tooling people that would really use this, but I could see fixturing people use this in CAM as well. But let's have a look. So if we go here, we just have this simple little part here, right? And we want to do something with the corners. This acts like a fillet or chamfer command. So you just select the edge to modify, and you can see the type of angle clearance that it's putting in. You can even modify what side it's on. How do you want to clear things out? You can control the offsets, control the distances. You can control it all, as opposed to you having to build this into sketches. It's now a lovely piece of automation. Alrighty. Tooling kinematics. So we've improved the tooling kinematics as well to create automatically the open close configurations available for TopSolid Mold and TopSolid Progress to allow for easier visualization of the tooling configurations, check strokes, movements, collisions, and so on. Project tooling configurations in 2D drafting even. So let's have a look. So here we're going to create our simulation. So pretty straightforward, right? And now we have our open tooling configuration. So this is what we're talking about there. We have your design configuration. So this is made automatically so that, okay, now we're in the open configuration. You can measure, analyze, check, do whatever you need to do without having to be in the simulation. We can check this with a progressive die as well. You have your design configuration, you have your open tooling configuration. Same concept. Perfect. Okay, TopSolid Electrode for 2021. We have made some improvements to Orbital electrodes. Okay. Now, some of the improvements also include dealing with the shell of the electrode. There's a new fill hole option, and now there's a new translated mode for the eroding shape. Let's have a look. All right, so we're gonna take a look in here. We want to start by making a new electrode. So let's go make the shell, go from there to there. And now we have this new fill holes. We want to fill right there. And notice it's auto extending following the tangency of the faces properly as well. It's awesome. And it fills the hole appropriately. Alrighty, so now let's have a look. And you can see how that extended that data down. Now we want to take a look at doing an orbit. Okay, so you have a undersizing of 0.5. And what I want to point out here is this is a true orbiting trode. Okay, and what do I mean by that? You have two different ways of calculating an overburn. The first way is a 3D spark gap, which means we offset all the faces perpendicular to themselves, basically, right? But in an orbiting electrode, all the Z's stay nominal. So if we look here, nominal, this edge is the same as that edge, same as that edge. As far as the up and down, we'll call that the Z-axis in this case. All these faces are shifted. Fillets remain the same size as well in that solution. Okay. So you have the ability to create a nice orbiting electrode now. Again, the goal is simplification, right? Perfect. Okay, next is electrode properties. You can now control, or I should say, show the projected area of an electrode as well. And you can do this with the sum of the face area. Okay, so sum of the face area includes not only these top faces here, but all of the actual faces that will effectively be burning, not the extension faces. Okay, have a look. And there you go. Pretty straightforward. Let's have a look at another one. We'll fast forward some of this. We go into draft. And notice you have your area there as well. So that new property can be passed into your setup sheets also. Oop, didn't need that slide. Okay, so that is the end of this initial introduction to new products and a few of the key new features within the solution on the design side. Are there any questions that any of you may have? Feel free to type them in. I see my team has been answering some of them as they've been going. I'm not seeing anyone pop up any other questions, so I appreciate those of you who took time to watch this live today. We'll be doing the next webinar, I believe, at 11 this morning. So hopefully we'll see you all back here then. Thanks for attending.